Hi YouTube, welcome to part 2 of our 3-part series on immortality. Part 1 covered what immortality is, and we also looked at some of the history and mythology surrounding it. If you haven't watched it yet, you can do so by clicking the link. In this video, we will look at why we humans are not immortal, and also at whether there actually is anything on Earth that is immortal. Nudge nudge, wink wink, the answer is yes, but you will have to stick around to find out what. Trust us, this guy has a pretty amazing trick up its sleeves. As we have discussed in part 1 of this series, the topic of aging and immortality is something that scientists and philosophers have long been grappling with. Let's face it, each and every one of us at some point in time wishes we simply had more time. And wouldn't it be wonderful to add a couple of years to our lives, perhaps even double or triple it? Think of what you could achieve if you had so much time. The reality, however, is that we are all on that slow approach to our inevitable death. It comes for us all. Someday in the future, our time will be up, and that will be that. There's nothing we can do about it. Or is there? Before we get to that, let's take a look at some of the reasons why we age. And right off the bat, we have to say that aging and the various processes involved still holds much uncertainty. It really is a very complex subject. There are numerous theories for why we age, which processes are involved, and why and how they occur. But that being said, there are quite a few things that scientists have brought to light, and we're not completely in the dark regarding what is going on inside our bodies that results in us ultimately kicking the can. Now, this entire process of aging over time, finally culminating in death, is called senescence, the official definition of which is the process of deterioration with age. But why does it happen? In the broadest sense, it comes down to how the cells we are made of function over an extended period of time. Our bodies continually run a multitude of internal processes that strive to keep us alive and healthy. At the cellular level, this involves, amongst many other things, somatic cell division, basically non-sperm or egg cells making copies of themselves, which is awesome for well-being and longevity, as it's like a continual renewal of the stuff we are made of. The issue is that there is a limit to how many times a cell can make a copy. This number varies between animals and species, and a lot of research has gone into understanding what determines this number. In the 1960s, Leonard Hayflick did some groundbreaking work by showing that human fetal cells would divide about 50 times before apoptosis occurs. What is interesting is that even if the cells were frozen halfway through this process, such that it would basically become inactive for a while, when the cells were taken out of the freezer, they would remember where they left off and simply continue exactly as before and stop more or less within an expected range of numbers. This showed that our cells are pre-programmed to die after a certain number of divisions. This number of divisions or copies that a cell can make is called the Hayflick Limit. So, if there is a correlation between longevity and the Hayflick Limit, then scientists should just increase this limit, right? Well, it's not that simple. Scientists believe the reason why the Hayflick limit exists is most probably down to our chromosomes. More specifically, the telomeres that diminish with each copy that is made. Telomeres are the little caps at the ends of the chromosome pairs, and these are what protect the chromosomes and ensure that it is functional and fit for purpose. So, once these telomeres reach a certain size after several copies, it can no longer protect the chromosome and it loses its viability. It has reached its Hayflick limit. You can see why it's not as easy as simply increasing our Hayflick limit. I don't know anyone that wants their chromosomes fiddled with and experimented on. But even if we assume that we do one day manage to improve the robustness of our telomeres during copying, there are still other factors that work against our hopes and dreams of attaining immortality. One of which has to do with some specific genes that bring about senescence. Now, this has not been tested on humans yet, for obvious reasons, but it has been proven in other organisms, and it is reasonable to expect that similar processes are at work inside us. Tests done on nematodes found that a single gene responsible for aging, called DAF2, can be tampered with such that it mutates and basically stops working. This doubled the lifespan of these worms. Doubled! And the worms were still full of vitality and energy right until they died. During these tests, another gene was found, called DAF16, and it basically does the opposite of DAF2, meaning it keeps the worms young and strong and healthy. Thus, silencing DAF2 means that DAF16 just keeps on doing its thing, until something else interferes, of course. But this perfectly depicts how genes with the purpose of keeping us young could be made obsolete by another gene that kicks in at some point in time and counteracts it. This has also been shown to be true in mammals. The test subjects this time were mice, and scientists have managed to nullify the gene responsible for producing the growth hormone called IGF-1, something we have in common. By doing so, damage to cells and organs reduced significantly. The mice were less prone to cancerous maladies or aging-related symptoms. Their lifespans could be increased up to 33%. Now, of course, as amazing as this is, it doesn't mean we can start killing off or mutating genes in humans yet. We might and almost certainly will see very different results, or at the very least, bring about various other unplanned or undesired side effects. Now, the next aging factor we want to discuss is the matter of how and where our cells get their energy from. This is where mitochondria come in. Mitochondria can be seen as the power supply to all cells in our bodies. It produces adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, which is the main energy source for all cellular processes. It also regulates many cell activities and plays an important role in programmed cell death, which is absolutely necessary for our well-being at times. But mitochondria loses efficiency as time passes, much like a battery running flat. When significant mitochondrial dysfunction exists, cells and even entire organs deteriorate. Unfortunately, it would seem that these mitochondria batteries are not the rechargeable type. But scientists are looking into ways of extending its efficiency and lifetime, so don't lose hope just yet. Okay, so we've looked at a couple of factors that bring about aging, but the list goes on quite beyond the scope of this video. For the sake of completeness, and I use the word loosely here, have a look at what scientists have identified as the most significant physiological factors that contribute to aging. Now, in addition to some of these factors we did not discuss, we also want to mention that there are, of course, what we would call unnatural external factors that also accelerate aging, most commonly by damaging and interrupting our body's cells or DNA and other processes. These factors include radiation and other poisonous substances that can lead to damage to DNA strands. And this is where healthy living comes in. Even though most of the aging processes in our bodies are not really under our control, we can make a relatively significant difference by trying to live sensibly when it comes to exercise, what we eat and drink, and also what harmful substances we expose ourselves to. The burden of being responsible, right? If only we could be more like these guys. Okay, I hear you. It's pretty, but the idea of being a blob with tentacles doesn't sound so great. But hang on a moment and let me explain what makes these guys so special. This guy right here was first discovered in the 1880s, and it's the only species deemed biologically immortal. It's a jellyfish called Turritopsis Dohrnii. It's not much in terms of stature, and it doesn't rank high on the food chain. Apparently, they're a very tasty snack for sea turtles, tuna, and even sharks. So it's not like they're unkillable. They very much die if chomped on by a shark or gobbled up by a hungry sea turtle. Nonetheless, apart from being eaten, they pretty much have the means to live forever. How is that possible, you ask? Well, these little jellyfish have a very neat trick which allows it to revert from a fully grown adult form back to an earlier stage of its life cycle when it was no more than a small blob of tissue. It's very much like a frog deciding to become a tadpole again. This is possible because of a remarkable cell mechanism called transdifferentiation. This rare process sees an adult cell type, which is specialized for a specific type of tissue or organ, change and become a cell type for a different tissue or organ. Quite a remarkable feat, right? And it allows the Turritopsis Dohrnii to cycle back and forth through these life cycles again and again, all the while remaining genetically identical. And what a party trick that would be, right? Before we end this video off, we can't help but speculate, or perhaps imagine is a better word, that within these fantastic little animals lies the secret keys to the gates of immortality for humans. For scientists, it's an important area of study which could help with repairing or replacing damaged cells within humans as well. And it really would open many doors in the field of medicine if we were to better understand how cells can be recycled or repurposed virtually on demand. There really seems to be some wonderful possibilities in our near future. What if we took a page from the book of 1986's movie The Fly? I wonder if they can... Nah, probably not. Nah. I mean, that would... But perhaps if we... Nah, surely not. Surely not. But what about a machine that can... Oh, no. Let's leave it right there for today, ladies and gentlemen. Sure, immortality seems like a wonderful thing, but I don't want to look like Zoidberg to achieve it. Tune in next week for the final part of this series on immortality, where we will look at what a world with immortal humans in it could look like, and whether it would be a good thing or not. Until next time, cheers.